high-speed world of Formula One, where victory and tragedy often ride side by side, some driver stories forever remind us of the sport's deadly risks. Riccardo Paletti, a promising talent lost too soon. In the high-octane world of Formula One, where milliseconds define careers and risks are part of the adrenaline-fueled allure, Riccardo Paletti's story remains one of the most haunting. He was just 23 years old, full of potential and ready to make his mark on the world's premier racing stage. But his promising journey came to a devastating halt on June 13, 1982, at the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal, a day that started with hope and ended in heartbreak. Paletti, hailing from Italy, had climbed the motorsport ladder with determination. Though he lacked extensive racing experience compared to his F1 contemporaries, he displayed enough grit and raw talent to catch the eye of the struggling Osella team. The 1982 season was his entry into Formula One, and while the team was far from competitive, it was a golden opportunity for Paletti to gain crucial experience and prove himself on the big stage. However, the Osella car was notoriously unreliable, and the first part of the season was plagued by technical issues. Paletti failed to qualify for several races, and when he did, the finishes were either marred by mechanical problems or other incidents. The Canadian Grand Prix presented a rare window of hope. For once, things were looking up. Paletti had successfully qualified, and the mood in the paddock was cautiously optimistic. But Formula One can be brutally unforgiving. As the cars lined up on the grid and the lights went out, disaster struck almost immediately. Didier Pironi, a fellow competitor in a Ferrari, had stalled at the front of the grid. Most of the drivers managed to swerve around Pironi's car, but Paletti, starting from 23rd, had almost no time to react. Traveling at around 180 kilometers per hour, he smashed straight into the back of the stationary Ferrari. The impact was catastrophic. The front of Paletti's car crumpled like paper. He was knocked unconscious from the force of the crash. Then, to make matters worse, fuel began leaking from the vehicle, and within moments, flames engulfed the wreckage. It was a nightmarish scene. Emergency crews rushed in and managed to extinguish the fire, but getting Paletti out of the wreck proved difficult. The delay proved fatal. Though he was eventually airlifted to a nearby hospital, Paletti succumbed to his injuries shortly after arrival. The cause of death was later revealed to be massive chest trauma. He never regained consciousness. What made Paletti's death all the more tragic was the circumstance. It didn't happen mid-race due to driver error or aggressive racing. It happened at the very start, a freak accident born from bad timing and unfortunate positioning. It served as a grim reminder that danger lurks at every corner of a Formula One track, not just in the high-speed chicanes or overtaking maneuvers, but even before the race truly begins. Paletti's death shocked the motorsport world. Fans, drivers, and teams alike mourned the loss of a young man who never got the chance to fully show what he could do. Just 2 days later, he would have turned 24. The Osella team was left devastated, and while the sport moved on, as it always does, the memory of that fiery crash in Montreal has never quite faded. Riccardo Paletti's story remains a solemn chapter in Formula One history. A reminder that talent and potential can be extinguished in an instant. His death prompted increased scrutiny on grid safety, eventually leading to changes that made the start of races safer for everyone involved. He may not have won championships or climbed podiums, but in the eyes of many, Paletti represented the pure passion and danger that defined Formula One, and for that, he will never be forgotten. Gilles Villeneuve, the fearless Canadian. When it comes to raw passion, electrifying skill, and fearless driving, few names echo as loudly through the halls of Formula One history as Gilles Villeneuve. Known for his spellbinding driving style and a take-no-prisoners approach to racing, Villeneuve wasn't just a driver, he was a spectacle. Every lap he completed was laced with drama, pushing machines to their absolute limits. But that same fearless pursuit of glory would ultimately lead to one of the most gut-wrenching tragedies the sport has ever seen. Villeneuve's story is one of talent fused with heart. Born in Quebec, Canada, he made his name in snowmobile racing before transitioning to open-wheel racing and eventually Formula One. His break came when McLaren offered him a seat in 1977, but it was with Ferrari that he found his spiritual home. Enzo Ferrari himself was captivated by Villeneuve's courage and charisma, famously calling him a man who will make history. And for a time, that prophecy rang true. Gilles Villeneuve wasn't just fast, he was mesmerizing. His car control was otherworldly. Rain or shine, qualifying or race day, he drove like every corner was a life or death situation. He didn't just aim to beat opponents, he aimed to outdrive the laws of physics. His battle with René Arnoux at the 1979 French Grand Prix remains one of the most thrilling displays of wheel-to-wheel racing ever witnessed, with both drivers swapping positions multiple times in the final laps. Wheels touching, sparks flying. But racing on the edge comes with a price. The 1982 season was already turbulent for Ferrari. Internal tensions were high, particularly between Villeneuve and his teammate Didier Pironi. During the San Marino Grand Prix, team orders were allegedly ignored by Pironi, leading to Villeneuve feeling betrayed and vowing never to speak to his teammate again. Just 2 weeks later, on May 8, 1982, Villeneuve took to the track for qualifying at the Belgian Grand Prix in Zolder. What happened next is one of the most harrowing moments in F1 history. Villeneuve was pushing hard in the final minutes of the session, desperate to beat Pironi's time. As he came over a crest at full throttle, he encountered Jochen Mass's car moving slower on the racing line. Both drivers attempted to avoid each other, but they chose the same side. Villeneuve's Ferrari clipped the rear of Mass's car, launching it into the air. The impact was violent. Villeneuve's car was torn apart, and he was hurled from the cockpit. Still strapped to his seat, into the catch fencing at terrifying speed. The scene was chaos. Medical teams rushed in, and Villeneuve was quickly transported to a hospital in Leuven, but the damage was too severe. He had suffered a fatal fracture to his neck, and by that evening, life support was removed. The racing world was shattered. Villeneuve was more than a fan favorite. He was a symbol of unfiltered racing passion. His death was a stark wake-up call about the razor-thin line between glory and disaster in motorsport. How many risks are too many? How far should a driver go to beat his rival? Villeneuve's legacy lives on, not just in the memory of those breathtaking laps or that unforgettable duel in Dijon, but also in the safety reforms that followed. His death accelerated discussions around cockpit protection, medical response, and the ever-evolving design of safer cars. Gilles Villeneuve died chasing greatness, flat out, uncompromising, fearless, and in doing so, he became eternal. His son Jacques would later carry the family name to a Formula One World Championship, but the shadow cast by Gilles' legend remains unmatched. In every roar of a Ferrari engine, in every daring overtake that defies logic, there's a whisper of Villeneuve's spirit. And for fans, he remains the very embodiment of what makes Formula One both beautiful and brutal. Roland Ratzenberger, the tragedy overshadowed by a legend. When Formula One fans talk about the tragic weekend at Imola in 1994, the name that echoes loudest is Ayrton Senna. But just one day before Senna's fatal crash, another life was lost, one that was often overshadowed but no less heartbreaking. That life belonged to Roland Ratzenberger, an Austrian driver who had only just begun to live his Formula One dream. Ratzenberger wasn't born into racing royalty, nor did he come through a prestigious academy. His journey to Formula One was one of grit, determination, and relentless passion. He cut his teeth in Formula Ford and the British F3 circuit before moving on to touring cars and Japanese Formula 3000. Eventually, his perseverance paid off. He secured a seat with the new Simtek team for the 1994 season. For Ratzenberger, this was more than just a drive. It was the culmination of years of effort. He was finally on the grid. The Simtek car was far from competitive, but Roland was undeterred. He qualified for his first race in Brazil and finished 11th, a solid start. But it was the San Marino Grand Prix weekend at Imola that would be his last. During Saturday qualifying, disaster struck. On a flying lap, Ratzenberger ran over a curb and damaged his front wing, a part of the car essential for maintaining downforce. Undeterred, he continued pushing, not realizing the wing had been compromised. At over 300 kilometers per hour, the wing finally gave way on the main straight, wedging under the car and lifting it off the track. Roland lost control and slammed head-on into a concrete wall at the Villeneuve curve. The impact was devastating. The front of the car disintegrated and the violent deceleration caused a basal skull fracture, an injury that would claim his life almost instantly. Medical crews were quick to respond, but it was already too late. Roland Ratzenberger was pronounced dead shortly after. Ayrton Senna, the death that changed Formula One forever. There are few figures in Formula One history as revered and mythical as Ayrton Senna. To fans around the globe, Senna was more than a driver. He was a warrior, a philosopher, and a national hero. His driving wasn't just about speed, it was spiritual. Watching Senna on the track felt like watching fate in motion. He drove with divine purpose, making the impossible look effortless. But on May 1st, 1994, that divine spark was extinguished in one of the sport's darkest hours. Senna had built his legacy on breathtaking speed and unrivaled commitment. A three-time world champion from Brazil, he had become a global icon, not just for his relentless racing, but for his deep introspection and compassion. Whether it was his wet weather dominance in Monaco or his razor-sharp qualifying laps, Senna was the very definition of intensity behind the wheel. By the 1994 season, he had moved to the Williams team, replacing the retired Alain Prost. But the new car, the FW16, was problematic. Regulation changes had removed many electronic aids from the previous season, and the car was twitchy, unpredictable, and hard to control. Senna was uneasy. He voiced his concerns repeatedly, particularly about the car's behavior at high speeds. The San Marino Grand Prix at Imola was supposed to be a chance to regain momentum after two retirements in the opening races, but tragedy had already begun to cast its shadow. During Friday practice, Rubens Barrichello suffered a massive crash that left him briefly unconscious. Then came Ratzenberger's fatal accident on Saturday. The paddock was shaken, and Senna, known for his emotional depth, was visibly distraught. He spent time reviewing safety data and even carried an Austrian flag in his car, intending to honor Ratzenberger if he won the race. But that moment would never come. On the 7th lap of the Grand Prix, Senna was leading the race. As he approached the high-speed Tamburello corner, his car suddenly veered off track. Traveling at 306 kilometers per hour, he slammed into a concrete wall. It was a sickening impact. The suspension arm from his car pierced his helmet, causing catastrophic head trauma. Marshals and medics rushed to the scene. Senna was extracted from the wreckage and airlifted to Bologna's Maggiore Hospital, the same one where Ratzenberger had died a day before. Hours passed, but the news was grim. At 6:40 p.m., Ayrton Senna was declared dead. He was just 34 years old. The racing world fell silent. Senna's death sent shockwaves across the globe. Brazil entered a state of mourning. Millions wept for the man who had become a beacon of national pride, especially during the country's difficult economic years. For Formula One, it was the end of an era and the beginning of a transformation. Ronnie Peterson, the Super Swede's final race. When you talk about the golden era of Formula One, one name that instantly stands out is Ronnie Peterson, affectionately known as the Super Swede. A dazzling talent, a fearless racer, and a man whose charisma lit up every race he entered, Peterson's career was marked by speed, style, and heartbreak. But it was his tragic final race at the 1978 Italian Grand Prix that shocked the motorsport world and forever etched his name in racing history. Born in Örebro, Sweden in 1944, Ronnie Peterson was a natural behind the wheel. He didn't come from a wealthy background or a family of racers, but he had something many drivers never find: pure raw speed combined with a magnetic personality. His rise through the ranks of motorsport was rapid. After mastering Swedish and European racing circuits, Peterson made his Formula One debut in 1970, quickly proving himself as one of the fastest drivers on the grid. Peterson's style was aggressive yet elegant. He was known for his incredible car control, especially in wet conditions, earning him the nickname King of the Rain. His ability to push a car to the absolute limit without losing control was mesmerizing to fans and feared by rivals. Over his career, he accumulated 10 Grand Prix wins and 26 podiums, impressive numbers that didn't quite capture the full extent of his talent because, despite his skill, he never clinched a world championship. The 1978 season was shaping up to be the breakthrough year Peterson and his team, Lotus, hoped for. The team had introduced the revolutionary Lotus 79, a car that harnessed ground effect aerodynamics, which drastically improved downforce and cornering speeds. This car was a game-changer, and with Mario Andretti as Peterson's teammate, Lotus was in a prime position to dominate the championship. The Italian Grand Prix at Monza on September 10, 1978, was highly anticipated. Peterson was eager to get a good result with the championship battle heating up. The race started in typical Monza fashion, a mad dash for position at the first chicane. Peterson got off to a strong start, but it was chaotic behind him. On the first lap, a major crash unfolded involving several cars. Peterson was caught up in the chaos when his Lotus collided with another car, causing him to spin and then be hit from behind. His car suffered severe damage, and Peterson was trapped inside. Rescue teams rushed to the scene and managed to extract him from the wreckage. Peterson was immediately taken to the hospital, where doctors diagnosed him with serious leg fractures and significant internal injuries. Despite the best medical care, complications arose. He developed fat embolism syndrome, a condition where fat particles enter the bloodstream and cause blockages in the lungs and other organs. This was a devastating turn of events. After 2 days of fighting for his life, Ronnie Peterson passed away on September 11, 1978. The news sent shockwaves through the racing community and the world at large. Fans mourned the loss of a beloved driver whose skill and spirit had captivated so many. Jules Bianchi, a stark reminder of motorsport's risks. Jules Bianchi was a promising French Formula One driver whose tragic accident in 2014 became one of the sport's darkest moments in decades. Born in 1989, Bianchi was widely regarded as one of the most talented drivers of his generation, with a calm yet aggressive driving style and a bright future ahead. Racing for the Marussia F1 team, he showed grit and determination in a midfield team, earning respect from fans and peers alike. His skill and perseverance made many believe he would soon join the ranks of the sport's elite. At the 2014 Japanese Grand Prix, Bianchi's career and life took a tragic turn. In heavy rain and poor visibility, he lost control of his car and collided with a recovery tractor attending to another crashed vehicle. The impact caused severe head injuries, and despite months of medical care, Bianchi never recovered. His accident exposed vulnerabilities in race safety measures, particularly regarding on-track vehicle recovery in dangerous conditions. He passed away in July 2015, marking the first fatal Formula One accident since Ayrton Senna in 1994. His death sparked urgent discussions about safety in F1, leading to major changes such as the introduction of the Halo cockpit protection device and improved protocols for hazardous race conditions. These safety advancements have since saved lives, underscoring the harsh lessons learned from Bianchi's accident. Jules Bianchi's legacy is a sobering reminder that, despite incredible advances in technology, motorsport remains perilous, and safety can never be taken for granted. His story continues to inspire ongoing efforts to make the sport safer for every driver who races today. These harrowing stories serve as poignant reminders of the perils inherent in Formula One racing. Each tragedy not only marked the loss of a talented driver, but also acted as a catalyst for safety advancements within the sport. The legacies of Riccardo Paletti, Gilles Villeneuve, Gary Hocking, Ronnie Peterson, Ayrton Senna, and Jules Bianchi continue to influence Formula One, underscoring the importance of continual improvements in driver safety. If these stories moved you, consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth explorations into the world of motorsport. Share your thoughts and tributes in the comments below, and don't forget to like and share this video to honor the memories of these remarkable drivers.